Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Welcome to Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. McIntire Retirement Services, Northwest Ohio's retirement planning resource.
And welcome into the program. This is your Game Plan for Retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning for your financial investment and retirement future. He is president and founder of McIntire Retirement Services. Welcoming him into the new year, Chris, welcome back.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to be with you here today, and I hope everybody had a good, safe holiday season.
We always appreciate seeing you, Chris, and I know that a lot of us are pretty glad that 2020 is behind us now.
Isn't that the truth? And only one way to go from here, you would think, you know.
You would think, although 2021 could have just as many surprises in store, we never know.
Absolutely. It's been a tumultuous time, and hopefully we can get some vaccines going. Folks get back to normal here. We can go out to restaurants and that type of thing. And, and obviously we had the winter, in the middle of the winter months here. And, that's usually the cold and flu season anyway. So I think most of us are just, okay with settling in here, huddling in and looking for spring 2021 to kind of, revive once again, I guess.
Well, I want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching the program, if you're listening on the radio, Chris McIntire is your resource. It's great to have a fiduciary planning resource on your side. If you've got questions, if you'd like to get that plan put together, if you'd like to review and evaluate current assets, investments, and accounts, pick up the phone and give Chris a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, fair to say a lot happened in 2020. The Australian brush fires, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, they left the royal family, Kobe Bryant, and then, of course, COVID. And from there, I think that was the majority of what transpired during the year. We've probably gone through a lot of the years in reviews, but from a financial standpoint, a lot of happenings. 1 year ago today, we were sort of talking about the Secure Act and the fact that they passed that in about a week's time and virtually changed all of the rules relating to IRAs and how they would be distributed.
Absolutely, buddy. And, not only distributed to the IRA owner, but also the IRA beneficiaries is probably even the more important aspect of the Secure Act. And, what that meant for most folks is it passed in, I think late December. It bumped out the required minimum distributions to age 72 from 70 and a half. Not a real big game changer there. They didn't change the distribution amounts or anything like that. They kept those the same. And as you get older, your life expectancy gets shorter. So obviously distributions can get greater over time. That's the theory. And then when you pass away and you're going to name it to your non-spouse beneficiaries, husbands and wives can still exchange IRAs without creating a taxable event. But when you pass away and you've named your children or grandchildren or brothers and sisters, non-spousal type beneficiaries, they must empty that IRA account by the end of the 10th year.
And so the IRS, in making those rule changes, gave us an extra year and a half on the front side, but then essentially, Chris, took away generations of additional tax deferral opportunity, something that we'll focus on a little bit about and see how we can still achieve those goals of passing on as much of our assets to our family and maybe minimizing the amount that Uncle Sam confiscates in a little bit. That's one of the issues that we'll be certainly facing and planning for in 2021 and beyond. But March 9th, the largest single day point drop in Dow Jones history. And then March 27th, the $2 trillion CARES Act. By November 16th, the Dow closes back above pre-COVID levels, and November 24th above 30,000 for the first time. So really a roller coaster of a year from a financial standpoint, at least when we're looking at the market.
Absolutely. We had record lows, record highs, technology stocks simply on fire, oil at negative $30 a barrel. I think we're all looking forward to, normalization, getting back into the big oil companies, paying dividends again, the energy type companies there, but we're seeing a shift here fundamentally in a lot of the way investments will be done going into 2021, Peter.
What is that shift that you are noticing, Chris?
We are seeing a major shift into the ESG space, environmental, social, and governance type of investments. And, you see that with some of the U.S. companies giving China some pushback on, like their, I'm going to call it the textile industry over there, where they use slave labor, saying, hey, we're not going to buy. Yeah. So I would say that politics has that really entered investing. And so from the environmental side, that would be more toward electric vehicles, renewable energies, wind and solar are really taking off here. Even British Petroleum has, one of the world's largest oil companies has wind farms they're developing in the North Sea for the Netherlands. So that would be the sustainable type. The governance side, obviously not investing where, there are human rights violations and that type of thing. And then the environmental piece is, very certainly gaining more popularity as, we talk about global climate change and everything, not to make a political football out of this here today.
Well,
by any
means. You could argue over the politics, but I think all of those efforts and initiatives are positive. I think that there are aspects of them, ancillary, kind of attached issues that we could get into politics about. But I think that everybody wants for things to be more sustainable, to preserve what we have, and to treat humans, with dignity and respecting rights wherever they are. So, Chris, I don't think that that's a bad shift when you look at the grand scheme of things, although it's going to probably have some bumps in the road.
Yeah, no question about it. And, there's who grades an ESG type company. Is that Fidelity's responsibility? Is that the government's responsibility? This is not necessarily brand new, but the flow of money coming into it is certainly increasing greatly. And then how do they, who's a type A ESG fund and who's a type C, for example, where maybe they're, what do you want to call it? Their guidelines aren't as strict as another one. BlackRock has been at the forefront of this, and they're like the world's largest money managers. So, they have their scale of how ESG friendly some of these investments are. But the flow of dollars into these types of companies is certainly gaining more and more momentum across the millennial generation into Generation X, like myself, and also into the baby boom generation. I think we're all, just becoming more environmentally conscious, better recyclers and whatnot, if you will. Up here where we live, we have a wonderful recycling facility. And we recycle anything from an envelope to a plastic bag to all the cardboard boxes. I think my wife has a crush on Jeff Bezos because Amazon's here like every day. So still trying to get to the bottom of that one.
More and more in every household, though, Chris. And again, that's a big change in consumerism, and the way that we are shopping has moved largely away from the brick and mortar and retail. And so things happen in cycles and phases. And I know that there are sectors of the economy that do have a positive outlook, like you just mentioned, the ESGs. And then there are sectors of the economy, even the traditionally stable ones, that are going through even more of a bit of a bumpy patch here. We're going to have to pay attention to that. That's kind of to do with market volatility, but there are some other major factors you spoke about needing to pay attention to looking forward into 2021 and beyond. Low interest rates, inflation, market volatility, and taxes being kind of essential to be planning around in 2021.
Correct. Yeah, we, still uncertain what the legislative agenda is going to look like, and is there going to be some different corporate taxes and individual taxes that, may upset the marketplace here a little bit. Remember, if, as the government tax more, taxes more of our dollars or less of our dollars. That's more or less money that's going into different parts of the economy as well. So the legislative side of this is certainly a big unknown. As you mentioned, low interest rates out there. Many people are obviously refinancing, trying to take advantage of those low interest rates. That was a big thing that happened there in 2021. That frees up more dollars. I mean, we refinanced our home as well, frees up more dollars. That money flows back into the economy, and, versus just going into the mortgage payment, that flows back into, going out to eat. As we transition into an economy that we're all expecting to open up much wider, hopefully it revives the travel and tourism industry, the restaurant industry, not only from the mom and pop shops, but some of the big industries. The pizza places did fantastic because we're used to that as carry out food. But you get some of your finer dining establishments where you want to go sit down and have an evening. My goodness, we belong to the Fireland Symphony over here, and, can't wait to go see some live theater. Movies will be made once again, and, theme parks opening up again. Disney, we have Cedar Point Amusement Park here, which is a very popular stock for people to own because they'd always paid a very nice dividend, and they had to, collapse that dividend, as did ExxonMobil, some of those big energy companies. So, we have a lot of damage that has been done to the economy that will take time to, certainly get back up to speed. And, you and I were talking as we were, before we started the radio show here, about your son and education, and, how much have they missed? How do we adapt to the different education pieces that are going to go on? Do we go back into offices? Do we still stay Zooming? And that affects the commercial real estate market as well. So it's it's going to be a very interesting year to see what normalization looks like here when we, have this show next year, when we're kind of doing a reflection on 2021. How normal did we get?
Well, yeah, it's yet to be seen. And Chris, they talk about the new normal. It may be with us for a while, that we don't see a return to normal, that it sort of has changed and evolved. And I think that is the natural course of life and evolution, is that things do change and we get used to things being normal that were once not so normal. The low interest rate environment in particular, Chris, I think that it's been with us for a while, but really for the foreseeable future, we expect this to stick around now, where if we look back 10 years ago, we were complaining about the low interest rates, but we were making comments like it will change, it will come back at some point in the future, and it's continued on a downward trend. I know that the refinancing of your home mortgage has been favorable due to the low interest rates. But how does that affect savers and investors and retirees differently? And what do we need to do to plan around these low interest rates?
Good question, Peter. And if we translate from low interest rates into like the bond market, if you will, as homeowners refinance their houses to get a lower interest rate, those mortgages get sold off into bonds that retirees buy to generate income. And those bonds now pay very, lower interest rates as well as cause and effect. So the 4% rule, where everybody used to say, well, if I retire now, I can pull 4% out of my portfolio because I've got bonds paying interest, I've got stocks paying dividends. Well, that's not necessarily been the case here. And we've had Dr. Wade Pfau on the show here many times talking about, look, the 4% rule was a theory generated back in 1994. We need a different rule for withdrawal rates here in 2020, 2021, dealing with today's economics. So, CDs at banks are paying 0.5%. A lot of the folks listening to the show today are used to 4% and 5% CDs, even 3% CDs. So, from the advisor side is, the pressure on structuring portfolios for income so people don't run out of money. From the investor side is, God, how do we safely pull money out of our portfolio? Are we looking at all the avenues that we need to, or do we need to, step out of the, I got CNBC on the television playing right here. Well, that's stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. There are other instruments that create income other than just that. There's real estate, there's the annuity aspect here. That's really the only instrument that will pay you an income for as long as you're alive. And whether or not people, have a good feel or a bad feel or a medium feel or an I don't know feel for annuities, you need to do some homework on that, guys. If your number one concern is, I'm worried about running out of money. Well, guess what? Since the days of the Romans, they've had investments or vehicles that help offset that risk, right?
Well, again, things that are worth looking into. And Chris, you mentioned the low interest rates on CDs paying less than 0.5%. In that annuity world, you've got some options for safe, secure, interest-bearing accounts that you can walk away from at certain points in the future that are paying significantly higher rates.
Yeah, in 2020, we did some fixed rate annuities for 5 years that were from 2.3 to 3.2% in 2020. And, we'll see what the interest rate looks like because, a bank CD is, that interest rate is set basically out of what the Federal Reserve is setting interest rates at. Okay. The fixed rate in an annuity is typically on the investment returns of the underlying insurance company. So,
Chris,
how well they're performing.
If you're looking at a savings account paying 0.1% compared to something paying 2.5%, that's 25 times better interest rate by making a simple switch. If this is money that you can earmark not needing for a certain period of time, and then you do want in a lump sum to walk away with, there are vehicles to earn a significantly higher rate of return. And so we are in a low interest rate environment, but that simply means that people need to be willing to explore other alternatives, I think. And not necessarily going all the way to the other end of the spectrum, taking immense amount of risks.
And to be fair, there are many talking heads out there that, have very popular nationwide shows that, talk down about the annuity side of things. Okay. And the difference between them and what I do is I actually have clients that I have to sit across the conference room table on.
An important difference, I think. And Chris, you've got that fiduciary responsibility to do what's in your client's best interest and disclose different facts about the recommendations that you are making. And so, ladies and gentlemen, be open-minded, find out about these options and alternatives that can improve your interest on the safe and secure money. We are in a low interest rate environment. That's simply a fact that we're going to have to deal with, but there are alternatives that can help get your safe money growing a little higher rate. And if you'd like to find out about those, pick up the phone, give Chris McIntire a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. Chris, one of the big reasons why we are going to need to focus on this low interest rate environment is that inflation works against us. And that's going to be another leading story of 2021 we anticipate.
Absolutely. Probably one of the biggest risks that folks are facing right now, especially in the retirement side of things, as they become more conservative investors. They're shifting to safer investment vehicles that, are paying less interest rates. So if you think about it here, if inflation is 3%, okay, and you retire at age 60, that means at age 84, you need twice as much income to maintain your same standard of living, right? You take 72, divide it by 3, that's 24. So the rate of inflation also works with the rate of return. If inflation was 7%, in 10 years, you need to double your income to maintain the same standard of living. And it's not up to the government to make sure that you're keeping pace with inflation. Look at the Social Security cost of living adjustments. They do that for urban wage earners, not for retirees. They've talked about toying with a CPI index, consumer price index for elderly folks, but they haven't done anything like that because they spend more money on medical than they do on housing or transportation, typically because they're more idle.
Well, and just as example, the cost of living adjustment for Social Security for 2021, Chris, 1.3%. However, the increase on the Medicare premiums, 2.7%, more than double the increase that Social Security recipients will get this year.
It's not tricky math by any stretch of the imagination. And, even Jerome Powell in 2020 said, look, the interest rate environment due to the damage here from the pandemic, okay, is going to stay low until 2025. They want inflation to get ahead of where it normally is even. So, they're going to make it, I guess you could say, hey, it's got the potential to get worse for conservative investors instead of better. Is probably a summary there.
Yeah, Mama always said you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And once that inflation starts to run away, Chris, I have concerns that they'll be able to put a cap on that. But again, these are why investors, savers, those serious about their planning and their financial future need to get that plan put together. And ladies and gentlemen, if you would like your game plan for retirement, get that plan in your hands. Pick up the phone, give Chris McIntire a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. You can go online to learn more, McIntyreRetirementServices.com. You can find Chris on all the social media platforms, McIntyre Retirement Services. Lots of great ways to be in touch, lots of resources, tools, calculators, reports available for you. And of course, the opportunity to have a resource in your corner, somebody who can help you answer specific financial issues or give you that comprehensive planning review. Continue to monitor the plan, update the plan, and make sure that your plan is working to help you achieve your important financial goals. That's the benefit of having that financial counselor, the instruction on what to do with your money in order to achieve your goals from a qualified, experienced professional. 800-868-1194 to get in touch with Chris and the team, to ask a few questions, and to get that game plan for retirement in your hands. Chris McIntyre offers that on a complimentary, no cost, no obligation basis for listeners to the program, for viewers of the podcast. 800-868-1194 is what you need to do to get that process started. And of course, lots of us, Chris, have aspirations of making 2021 a better financial year, have resolutions that we want to improve our financial outlook. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And that's getting in touch and making sure that we've got a plan to make those goals happen.
It certainly does, Peter. We did a lot of Roth conversions last year, so people are starting to, realize, look, income tax rates are down low. We don't know what the future is going to hold here. They just simply can't, to go back on Peter's message of inflation, they can't keep printing money, and not expect prices to go up. As they print more money, there's more money out there to chase fewer goods. That's what drives inflation. Too much money chasing too few goods. Simple supply and demand. And, as we work our way into 2021, I haven't been on an airplane for probably about almost 12 months. It was February of 2020. I'm normally on a plane like you, Peter. We go to some of the same conferences and whatnot,
4 or 5 times a week, a year.
Right. And, we haven't done any of that. And I hope, God, I got to remember how to go through the TSA line once again. But really looking forward to, opening up, so normal for me is going to be, going out to dinner, for me going to the gym and actually, restoking friendships. It's going to be different. I'm going to see people I haven't seen in quite some times, best friends that I'm used to texting with that you haven't seen, and, sharing holidays and dinners and those types of things. Again, who would have ever thought, What a year.
Well, Chris, we touched a little bit on market volatility. I guess just a quick summary or synopsis or outlook from you. Do you expect for market volatility to continue to be a story in 2021 that we're going to need to address in our planning?
No question about it. There's no volatility is here, until we get this pandemic completely behind us. And, you could say, all right, hey, the vaccines are coming out. We got Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca. We can hit everybody around the globe. Hey, where are we shifting dollars from then? Are we getting away from the technology and coming back into the travel and leisure sector? How will the markets rotate out of, what we were doing in 2020 to what we are going to do in 2021? Are we going to be in the international markets? China did not have the issues with the virus that we did. Their economy is rocking and rolling, and they are the world's second largest economy. And their goal is to overtake the US and sow discontent. So, you can see that, if they've done one good thing, it is, getting in here and disrupting the American way of life. And that is one of their long-term goals.
To be fair, they have a little bit more hands-on approach to the travel and freedoms of the population. We are a little bit more laissez-faire and allow people to make up their own minds to a great extent. The governmental control was a little bit of a new thing for us, and a lot of resistance, obviously.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. China doesn't have any problems locking the apartment building for 76 days and say, look, you're not leaving. And here in the United States, what worked on one block, you couldn't do on the next. So, really, trying to bring society back together here a little bit. We had a very contentious election, still working out some of the details on all of that as we record the radio show, and, what will, restoring confidence in the American way of life again, plain and simple, because if they were going to have a presidential election this year, I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up, they had a ton of mail-in ballots like they've never had before that came on kind of at the last minute because of the pandemic. And, you just could not have scripted this craziness any differently. And, we still have to unwind from all of that just because we got a jab, which is going to be the word of the year, right? Got jabbed in the arm with the vaccine once or twice. It doesn't put it back to normal tomorrow. People will still be somewhat reluctant to go into places. And,
Sure.
And how does that work if somebody wants to take the vaccine and somebody that doesn't, but yet they work in the same facility or a factory with thousands of employees like a Whirlpool Corporation or, some of the car manufacturers? Are they going to mandate it? So we got a long ways to go to work out some of those finer details. And that's going to be, that's uncertainty.
Well, Chris, another political football here. A lot of people are concerned about taxes. You mentioned that last year you helped your clients with more Roth conversions than ever before. Are taxes going to continue to be a leading story to pay attention to and to plan for? And do you anticipate more conversations about those Roth conversions moving through 2021?
I've been a big favor of doing, proactive tax planning for years on the show here. If anybody's listening, shifting those dollars from taxable to tax-free in a historically low interest or income tax environment that we have now. And you just can't continue to print more and more dollars and expect to never pay for them. So the government, the only way that they control the flow of money is either to raise taxes or cut spending. And we know that they haven't been good at the latter and have been pretty good at the former.
So what does the average saver or investor that has already made some decisions about how to save money and built up a large tax deferred balance, what do they need to be doing or thinking about and considering this year?
Yeah, okay, where is my income going to be for 2021? And when do I start planning for my Roth conversions or Roth contributions, right? If you're still working and have wages coming in, you can put money into a Roth IRA or Roth 401k. As we get toward the end of the year is very typical when we will start really focusing on Roth conversions because people know how much money they've had through, say, the month of October or November. And what tax bracket are they in, the 10%, the 12, or the 22%? So for a lot of our clients, we focus on the 12% bracket. If you're in the 12% bracket, make sure you're maxing it out because that's a pretty low rate of income tax to pay to put it into something that will be tax-free to you or your beneficiaries. And in a lot of cases, you do these things to pass this money on to your beneficiaries who might be in a higher income tax bracket than you are.
Yeah,
right. The
even
goal is
22% and 24% historically isn't that high comparatively, Chris. So we're in a low tax rate environment right now. It might be an opportune time to do some proactive planning. And like you said, Chris, some of that is for retirement income purposes. Some of that is for legacy purposes where you've got to define what your goals are. And sometimes it can be either or, but still you need to understand when and where those dollars might have multiple purposes. And I know, Chris, you sit with your clients and really go through that process of defining the goals for each particular dollar, each particular account, and making sure you're doing the best things to help those savers and investors achieve those goals.
Yeah, we certainly do, Peter. It's I'm kind of a tax geek. I like doing that type of an analysis for folks, and we have some nice CPAs that help people do tax planning, and then they can, they'll do a scenario for the next 5 years. So at least we got a roadmap to go on, and some bumps in the road will come up. Somebody may say, "Hey, we're going to buy a second home. We found something we really like, and we're going to have to take out more money out of our IRA, so we might not be able to do the Roth conversion this year," or health issues, things like that come up, of course. But having a plan in place makes the adjustments a little bit easier to sustain, and how do you adjust and absorb those throughout time.
Chris, finally, and we just have a minute or so left here. If somebody's thinking about retiring in 2021, and I know a lot of folks listening might be considering that, what is your advice for those folks?
Yeah, let's come in and have a discussion. Let's take a look at, what are the liabilities? What are the assets? What is the risk of the assets that you have from an inflation standpoint on too much cash, from equity risk from too much in stocks, or bond risk with the interest rate environment? Where is the income going to be generated from? What's the life expectancy that you're working on? Did everybody in your family live to be 95 years old, or did they live to be 78? I mean, that's a huge difference in life expectancy there. And how do you plan for that accordingly? And, a lot of folks, we didn't get into the show here much today, but what happens if you go into a nursing home? I have a lot of people that say, "Well, my daughter's going to take care of me." I'm like, your daughter's going to spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with you if you can't take care of yourself. That's a lot of times an impossibility, but many folks do. Obviously, we've been down that road as well.
Well, again, it's all going to take careful planning. So many factors that we are paying attention to, looking forward at the year ahead: interest rates, inflation, market volatility, taxes, certainly some big ones, estate planning, retirement planning. All of those are things that Chris McIntire at McIntire Retirement Services can help you tackle and address. Pick up the phone, give him a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And Chris, along with all of those, probably sure to be a few surprises in store for us in 2021 as well.
No question about it there, with all the changes that we had in 2020, and, cause and effect, and, ebb and flow is certainly going to happen here in 2021. And everybody be safe out there. We look forward to chatting with you folks soon.
Chris does always appreciate listeners and viewers from the program being in touch. He's here to help and assist. Give him a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. We'll talk to you next time on Your Game Plan for Retirement.
Visit McIntyreRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Indexed or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract.